Well, folks, we sure got a show to talk to you tonight. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or at least Snow White is the film I just went out to see, and dear Lord, ah, Disney, man, you don't know how to do anything except for disappointment these days. I wish I could say more for the House of Mouse besides just them releasing another unmitigated disaster. If this film breaks 100 million worldwide, that's fantastic because damn, Disney, what have you done? You've absolutely bastardized your crown jewel. Like, okay, all the films before it, Cinderella, Mulan, Beauty and the Beast, yes, these are jewels in the crown. Heck, even Ariel, not Ariel, Little Mermaid, that was another great crown jewel. But this is the one at the top. This is the one that you couldn't fail to do excellent with. And dear Lord, did you try to hit every single of the ugly branches down as you fell through that tree? But hey, at least let's give it some praise. If you were to look at this story and just cut everything out and just go basic bones and compare it, it is still Snow White. So, regardless of what Rachel Ziegler tried to tell you, it is still a true love story at the end of the day. So, we can at least give it some praise there. That's about it that I have good to say about this film. This film does everything wrong. Starting with the initial song we are introduced with. This movie starts off with the song of fairness for us, introducing us that this is going to be a key part throughout the story, not finding the true love, not having your soulmate, not trying to overcome great evil. It's fairness for everyone, for the community, for all. That is the story that's beating us over the head, and dear Lord, it got old real fast. Like, what is fairness in this world exactly? What were we supposed to be exactly that's supposed to be fair? Like, is it that taxation is too high? Is it that the death rate's too high that we need to find some way to combat disease? Is it that there's too much food shortages so that we need to spread the goods around? Is it housing that's too much that, people are living in tight dishwasher closets that we need to build some more housing? What exactly is fairness in this whole film? It preaches it nonstop, but what exactly are we talking about when it comes to being fair? Are we talking about being fair to the common man, to the royalty? Where is this fairness? The film never explains that to us. We're just left to our own devices to come up with what this magical fairness is supposed to be. So that is throughout the film, and it just bashed you over the head. It got real old after the first, well, I'm going to be honest, after the first couple lyrics of that song, and by the time you were through the film, you nearly died from how much they're trying to bash you with it. From there, we go on to Snow White's actual story of how her mother died. We don't really know. We just know that she passed away. We then go to her father, who remarried to the evil queen, and then he had to go south because of the evil queen's recommendations that there was some enemy to the south that he had to go defeat. Later on, it's discovered that the evil queen killed her father, but details. We'll get into that a little bit later. I should also mention, we also learn how Snow White gained her name. Was it because her skin was white as snow? Was it because, the mother had this epiphany that Snow White's beauty will shine bright, and so she wanted to recognize the fairness, so she was white as snow? No, she was literally building it. Sorry, it just frustrates me. She was literally born in a snowstorm, and that is why she's called Snow White. For no other reason, just for that one reason alone, alright? She's just called Snow White because she was born in a snowstorm. So if you're telling me that if she was born in the middle of a summer hot month, she would have been called Raging Hot? I'm like, what the heck is this reasoning here? Or maybe it was like the blackest night of spring. Maybe she'd been named Dark Knight. Like, okay. Like, Disney, you are really trying to avoid the actual naming convention here, which is her skin was so fair, so white, that it was called Snow White. Like, it's no surprise to anyone that's been paying attention to this film and the disaster that's been following along with it, but dear God, man, why? Like, you could have come up with any better reasoning for a name besides just a snowstorm. Fine, whatever. That's just going to show you that how little they care for the show, how little they care for the story, how little they care for the story elements throughout. As I said, if you look at it just stripping everything away, it has the bare bones of the Snow White story, but that's about it. Because the next time we see Snow White, she is out scrubbing the floors, like, okay, that's following along the story, but we have her singing about fairness again, and not singing her wish of true love, of finding someone to be with. We don't have anything about that. It's just her scrubbing away and thinking about fairness. And then she comes across this dude who's a thief, kind of charming guy, and gives her a reality check that people are starving out there, that he's just doing what he can to survive, and he runs off as the guards start looking for him. Later on, as she's having dinner with the evil queen, she's trying to preach about fairness. What exactly fair? She gives some illusion that maybe some of the food, but doesn't really get too far before she's stopped by the evil queen and given a lesson on you can be a rose that wilts easily, or you can be a diamond that's beautiful and hard and is able to rule. Kind of makes sense. I mean, as a ruler, I kind of would go for more like the diamond side. Like, yeah, you want a strong ruler who can keep the palace and the world clean and shiny. So I guess I'm on the side of the evil queen here, but what exactly is the lesson that's supposed to be taught to Snow White? That you don't want to be a caring person at all? I don't know, man. Like, the metaphors here are clear, but at the same time, it's just like, why are we doing this whole song and dance exactly? Because at this exact same time, that thief that I mentioned before, he shows up, and the queen just wants to lock him into the dungeon, but Snow's like, no, let's be fair to him, which locking him in the dungeon would be fair to his crime. He tried to steal from the palace, so throw him into the dungeon for a couple weeks, and then let him go free. Like, as far as I can tell, the queen wasn't saying let's execute him and throw him off the ramparts or put him on a stake and beam him out in front of the city for all other thieves or chopping off his hands. He was literally just going into the dungeon. So what's so unfair about that? I mean, is Snow White's idea of fairness for this just a slap on the wrist like, no, you don't steal from people, that's bad, but you can go back out into the world and, live your life and nothing bad is going to happen, which is going to be very disappointing at you? Like, what's the whole point here? I would like some explanation exactly what she wanted to have happen here. Because the evil queen, she listens to her, like, okay, fine. Instead of throwing him into dungeons, we will strip him and tie him to the front of the castle, and that's where he'll stay. Except for they don't do that. They just literally take him out to the front of the castle, tie him up with a loose knot, and leave him there. They don't even strip him. Like, Snow White says, like, he'll die, but with the clothes he has on, maybe he'll die, but it's not as bad as what we're led to believe. Like, also, why don't we have like a stockade that you can just throw him into? If you just want him to suffer some public humiliation, that'd be a better place to put him. You can put him there, people can throw rotten food at him, mock him, and he can wither underneath the elements. But it just, I don't know. That whole part of the film, I'm just wishy-washy of. I mean, she eventually goes to him. She releases him from his knots because for some reason there's no guards posted to keep an eye on him. I don't understand the reasoning for that, but okay. She's just able to get up behind him and is able to just easily pull out the knot, as I said. But why? Like, why do you have the knot that loose? Yes, I get it. So Rachel Zegler can untie the knot herself. Okay, we get that. We understand that. But why did you make it look like that in the film? Like, you could have had some change there where she had the key because she swiped it from somebody who's showing her some initiative that she can be cunning, and she would have been able to unlock the chains and free him that way. But instead you just had this loop rope that I just saw, like, come on, you couldn't do something better than just that. But regardless, she released him, tells him that she's sorry, and she offers him a crumb of bread. So they're very nice of you. At least he gave him something to eat. And he just takes off, kind of stunned that he's free, and gone he goes. And she never gets in trouble for releasing him. Like, you would expect her to receive some punishment for it, because we see the evil queen watching over her at this point, and nothing. She doesn't get brought into her chambers, doesn't get chastised. The evil queen just goes back into her mirror room, asks the mirror that she purposely built just to ask if she was beautiful or not, and she asked the mirror, for fairness, and the mirror for some reason changes the question from you are fair, but within you, you are no longer known fair to the public. That is now Snow White. So you just changed the story from being a story about beauty, about vanity, about how an older woman wasn't able to accept the fact that passages of years were coming on to her, so she has to let go of her beauty but refuses to do so, so she took it out on another beautiful woman. Instead, you took it to a political angle where Snow White is now the most fair person, not the most beautiful. The queen's still beautiful. They mentioned that several times throughout the film, that Gal Gadot is far more beautiful than Snow White, but Snow White is more fair. And yeah, just looking at the two, you can definitely tell. Although, here's the thing. They got two of the most tomboyish actors for this. Like, I don't mean to be insulting here, but dear God, like, Rachel Ziegler, like, you got nothing up top, girl. Like, a cup A might be too big for you. Like, I'm just being honest here. Like, there's nothing to her. Same thing with Gal Gadot. Like, you couldn't find anybody with more meaning to bones. Like, maybe a Sydney Sweeney. Like, I'm just spitballing here. That's something that you guys could have improved on. But throughout this film, that's just a whole thing that the mirror has to remind us, like, it's fairness, not how fair you look. So I just got a good chuckle out of that you just completely changed the whole element of the story there once more. As I said, it has the elements of the original story here. It's just that we can't help but keep on changing everything wherever we go. So at this point, the evil queen, she calls forth the huntsman, and she promises him riches and any desire, any wish he has, as long as he takes Snow White out to the outskirts and kills her and brings her back her heart. And the man's like, no, why? Why would you want to do this? And the queen's like, do you serve me or are you a traitor? And he's like, okay, fine. Yeah. I'm totally behind you, queen. And so he takes Snow White out to an apple orchard out on the outskirts of the city where she's doing her thing. She's picking apples. She's doing Snow White things, which, okay, fine. You at least got that right. And as they're getting closer to the edge of the apple orchard where they're getting closer to the forest, he then stops her, draws blade, very unmenacingly. Like, he's shaking. He's just like, and then all of a sudden he's like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to kill you. Which, okay, fine. That's how it went in the film. But you could have had him look more monstrous, like shove her onto the ground and be over her and about ready to plunge. But looking into the sweet, innocent eyes, he's like, no, I can't do this. I mean, it's just difference of perspective. But in the film, animated film, you felt more scared for Snow White. Whereas for this, you felt concerned, but not necessarily scared for her life. Because he immediately just puts down his blade, tells her to run, that the evil queen is out for your life, that she's lied to you about your father, but you have to go. Snow White tries to get a bit of news on her father, but he's like, go before I change my mind. And that's fine for the scene. I don't have too much of an issue for it. I just would have preferred if they showed him being a bit more menacing, a bit more murderous intent. Because that's what was supposed to be shown to us in the animated film. It would have been nice to see that here. Also, it is kind of interesting that you're having a black man be the murderer. So, I mean, DEI working in opposite favor at this point? Or is it good? I don't really know at this point. Darn Hollywood. Look what you've done to me, man. I used to be just look at black people in film and be like, oh, that's fine. It doesn't matter. But dear God. Now that you're replacing white people with black people, it now bringing up this whole other line of questioning. Dear Lord, why? Why have you done this to me, Disney? Anyway, Snow White runs away. She runs into the forest, and just like in the film, the trees look like they're trying to grab her. In fact, some of the trees do even come to life, and she's only saved because she falls through some of the forest floor into underground river, which flows her out into some meadow where she meets some animals, which then mysteriously changes from night to day again. Like, yes, it was at the end of the day, but I would have felt like if you had her underneath water, you changed it from light to dark, that you just kept it in this dark area for a bit longer, and then you just let the animals lead her to the dwarf cottage from there. At least that would have been my opinion, but that's not exactly what we have going on here. So I would just preferred a little bit more details going on there, but that's me personally. Now, Snow White, she gets led by the animals. They end up back at the cottage, and she looks around. It's a mess, but not quite as messy as it was in the animated series. It's just kind of, filthy. She doesn't make any comment about the names on the dwarf's beds. She just looks around. She goes to one of the beds, picks up the blanket, puts it over herself, and go to bed. Like, at least in the animated film, she just reads off the names and like, oh, these must be kids. We don't get any of that sense from her here. She just looks around, goes and finds some beds, and then goes to sleep. I don't really have too much of an issue with that. It would have been nice if she would have acted a little bit more exhausted, a little bit more tired, but that's just me. Now, let's go back to the huntsman for a little bit. So what's going on with the huntsman? Well, for the huntsman part, it's kind of following the same line as the movies. The queen goes to her mirror that night, and she asks who's the fairest of the all. The mirror reveals to her that Snow White is still alive. She's in a dwarven cottage, and the queen is still outwardly beautiful, but Snow White is still more fair. So with that, she goes into a rage. She summons forth the huntsman, and she does this whole song and dance that, man, the singing, just stop. You can't go 5 to 10 minutes without another song popping up in this film. Like, okay, I'm a musical guy. I like musicals, but dear God, you couldn't take at least a few minutes to be like, let's chill out here a little bit. Let's take a little bit easier approach. Let's not try to have a song every 10 minutes. Like, I get it's a Disney film, especially one of those older films that had a lot of music. I like it, but if you're going to do it, at least have a good song. The Evil Queen song is completely unforgettable. Sorry, it's completely forgettable. Like, I just saw this film like 2 hours ago, and I'm sorry, I can't not remember a single word from her Evil Queen song except for Gal Gadot can't sing. She can barely act. And it was not worth remembering. So, sorry. And also, when she opens up the box that the huntsman was supposed to have the heart in, it doesn't have a pig's heart in it like it was in the story. It just has an apple. Like, my dude, at least put a little bit of effort into your deception here. If you're not going to kill her, at least kill some animal and put that into there. But no, we can't have even the slightest idea that some poor creature was hurt to make this film. Come on, give me a break, guys. At least go along with the story, at least a little bit. But it is what it is. So, with that, he's now being cast into the dungeons, and that's it. Like, he's not getting executed, he's not being tortured. All we know is that he's just being thrown into the dungeons, which is fine, I guess, but he outright betrayed you. Like, what would be a worser crime than the dungeons? Like, at least torture him a little bit, but no, we can't have that. Even for enemies, we cannot mistreat them, according to the Evil Queen. So she goes to her captain of the guards, commands him to go into the woods, find Snow White, and bring her back in chains. The guard acquiesces to his queen's demand, and off they go, searching for Snow White. Now, for Snow White's part, she's still sleeping on the bed, so we'll leave her there for a little bit. At this point, we are then introduced to the dwarves, and Disney, you completely ruined the dwarves. One of the best parts about the film was how we were introduced to them, the singing, the time. It just got too much, man. Like, yes, we got to be introducing them to the hi-oh, it's off to work we go, and we get to see them go into the mines. The mines were beautiful. The gems were beautiful. All that was fine. It went over the top. They had the song as solid 9 to 10 for quality, and then they took it to 11 and 12. That just kind of ruins it. What do I mean here? They then start referencing their names. They start adding unnecessary parts of the song. They just try padding it out. That just ruins the music for me. It ruins the song that was iconic and well done in the 40s Snow White versus this one that we now get. I'm just like, why? Why did you feel the need to do this? Maybe I'm just over exaggerating a little bit here, but I don't know. I was not a big fan of it. I couldn't get into the song. Every time they just deviate from the music to one of the dwarfs just goofing off and being clumsy and being silly, it just undervalued the song for me. The dwarves then pack up the things because the workday is done, and they go, I home, and off to work, or excuse me, off to home they go. And once they enter in, they start looking around, and didn't think too much about it until they go into the bedrooms where they find Snow White sleeping. And kind of scene for scene play out, the dwarves push Dopey in and let him figure out, is it a ghost, is it a goblin? This whole scene was fine. I was pretty okay with it. Once the coast is clear and they realize that it's Snow White in, they then enter in, and it's just so, man. Like, the whole interaction with her and the dwarves, it's just, it's unrememberable, man. Like, I just saw the scene so not that long ago, and it just, I don't really care for it. Like, there wasn't anything all that with their interactions. Like, the dwarves introduced them to Snow White, which is fine. Snow White offering to leave, Grumpy wanting to leave, but Doc insisting that she stays. Okay, it's fine. She stays for the night, and then the next morning, she's woken up by the dwarves, and it's just kind of catastrophe, kind of like what we have in the film. But instead of the dwarves then leaving Snow White and going off to work, and her taking it upon herself to clean up the place, taking care of the dwarves, it's just her managing the dwarves as they go around, singing a whistle tune as they clean up the place. So instead of in the film where it was a nice thing for Snow White to put the effort in to clean the cottage with the help of her animal friends, instead she's now managing the dwarfs as they sing along to get the place cleaned up. Why? Like, why can't you show her being on her more feminine side, doing something nice for the dwarves instead of just being a manager for the dwarves? Like, yes, it is still nice that she was willing to help clean. Yes, okay, that's fair. But you could have done so much more to show her true femininity, to show that she's a true caretaker. Instead, you just, I don't know, like, it loses some of its meaning by having the dwarfs there. Like, the dwarfs weren't expecting her to clean. The dwarfs weren't, wanting her to do all this cooking and cleaning. That wasn't what was first expected, at least from what I'm remembering. Actually, sorry, I completely blew this all up. I am so sorry here. In the film, Snow White cleans the entire house, and then she goes to sleep. And then when she's woken up by the dwarves, she has a meal ready for them. She has a clean house ready for them. And that's part of the deal in the animated film, that she would cook and clean and she can stay as long as she wants. Now, Grumpy was the only one that had an issue with that, but that was the deal in the cartoon. And this, there was no such deal that was struck. No cleaning, nothing was expected of her. So it would have been nice if they went off to work and Snow White went about cleaning the cottage, making it presentable, making it a nice place to come back to, making a meal for them. And when the dwarves return, they could have something to eat and be pleasantly surprised. But it just cheapens the story a little bit for me. Now, at this point in the story, the dwarves tell Snow White about the bandits and how they supposedly serve the king, but they're just thieves and ruffians. And Snow White wanted to know more about her father, asks where they are. They point off in the direction for her to go to, and thus Snow White goes on her way to go find the bandits as the dwarves go off to work in the mines, which, fine. Now, as Snow White's going off, she eventually stumbles into the thief that we met earlier, and then we have a whole sing-along song of him saying princess problems, which is only memorable for the fact that he kind of had a catchy tune, but it was just princess problems. That's all it was. Cheap. I know. I'm sorry that I might not be as entertaining as others when it comes to this topic, but dude, it was so underwhelming that I'm honestly trying to stay awake here as I'm talking to y'all, because honestly, you couldn't come up with a better song than just princess problems. Like, dear Lord, I could probably write something better than that song that Thief was going into. Now, after he's done with his sing-along, him and Snow White end up in his bandit camp, And he's like, no, 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 she's fine. She's with me. Because originally the bands were thinking, oh, we have someone captured. She's now going to be ransom. We're going to make some money off her or something like that. But he's like, no, we're good. And one of the dudes, he claims, excuse me, that he's a some kind of what was it, a catapult? No, crossbow master. Instead, he just has a slingshot, which causes Snow White some pause, and he explains that it was stolen from me, which is kind of ironic that a thief was stolen from, thus he became a thief. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting. Regardless, after just meeting these guys, all of a sudden the guards show up, and this dude, after just having one sing along with Snow White and the good that she showed him at the castle, he's willing to put him and his men's life on the line to allow Snow White find some time to escape. And Snow White like, oh, I can't leave you, not in this desperate situation. But the man's like, hey, don't worry, I'm a bandit, I fight dirty. And now me thinking at this point, oh, okay, so he has some traps set up. He has some, like Ewok logs that are going to come rolling down these guys. Nope, they just jump over their ridge and go and fight the soldiers with what they have. Like, I'm sorry, these guys are trained soldiers. They outnumber you 2-1. You specifically mentioned that to Snow White. Like, you should all just die here. You should die bravely, but you should all die. Instead, what happens is that they confront the soldiers, but the soldiers don't kill any of them. They just circle around them and threaten them and demand Snow White. Like, why not just start stabbing a couple of them and wait until they start telling you where Snow White is? Like, would have been a better subject, at least in my opinion, than what we actually got. Now, from here, Snow White, she has the option to run away, and the critters are trying to pull her and yank her away from there, but she's like, no, I have to go back and help them. So she quickly loops around, finds the captain's horse, and calls out to the soldiers, here I am, runs to the captain's horse, rides away with it, as the birds take her dress and go and hide. Which, okay, I like that. It was a magical scene there. The soldiers went after it, but it was then revealed to be quickly that it was just birds. Now, here's a dumb part about this film. So, when they heard Snow White and they went after her, instead of, just 3 of the men leaving the group to go chase her down, they all left the bandits to go after her. These are bandits, okay? You've been looking for these guys. These guys have been terrorizing the area. They are bandits. So, enemies of the people, enemies of the crown. You should be taking these people in, at least in my opinion. But no, that's not what happened. We can't have our bandits that are pretty much absolutely useless, that are idiotic. We can't let them be captured. So, the guards stupidly just let them all go for no reason. So the guards leave all the bandits be. They go out chasing after Snow White, aren't able to find her. Bandits are able to slip away, and now the bandits and Snow White are up hiding. And the bandits thank Snow White for staying, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I just had to fix this princess problem of mine." Which, okay, yeah, catchy. It's got a chuckle or two in the theaters, but nothing too much. And here's the thing, like, when I was in the theater, it was mostly all just little girls. So it was a pretty awkward experience for me. Like, dear God, what the heck is going on here? Like, I was also expecting way more people. Like, this is opening day, opening night. Like, there should have been a packed theater of just little girls or young women or old women in there for this film. It just really goes to show you how badly Disney has marketed this film. Yes, it's a Thursday, so perhaps it'll ratchet up on Friday or Saturday and Sunday. Probably. Hopefully it does. But for a film that's so paramount to Disney, like, this should have been filled to the brim. I shouldn't have been able to find a ticket, okay? Like, all the pre-sales should have gone out. This is bad. I can't stress how bad it was. Like, I have all the seats in the theater. 10 of them were taken up. That's it. So it was probably a 40 seat, maybe it was more than that. A solid 80 seat theater. Yeah, sorry. I was thinking about the section I was sitting in, but that was just a 40. There's another 40 in front of us that had nobody in it. So yeah, Disney, you guys have just screwed yourselves so badly with this. It's mind blowing, but I'm sorry. I'm getting sidetracked from the film. So The bandits get away. They think Snow White. They're having a little conversation. One of the guards is able to find him, and he has a crossbow. And he takes aim, and it takes the longest time for him to line up a shot. Long enough for the bandit leader to realize, oh, Snow White's in danger. I'm going to rush in front of the shot to save Snow White, which then catches him in the shoulder. So Snow White and the dwarves quickly, sorry, I said dwarves. Snow White and the bandits quickly rush this bandit guy off to the dwarves because, they need a doctor, so Doc would be the one. Now, as far as the crossbow guy goes, he gets knocked upside the head by a bandit dwarf. Is dwarfism just all over the place in this world? I'm just curious to find just a random dwarf. Like, if he just came from a circus, then okay, I can understand. But we don't get any of that kind of backstory with him. Just that he's supposed to be a crossbow master that's now regulated to using a slingshot. Which, okay, fine enough. So they take everyone off to the dwarf house again to save this noble hero. And again, we have the dwarfs being kind of demean. I'm going to be honest with you. When they ask Doc for help, he's like, oh, well, I'm a Doctor of Stone. I've, minerals and stuff. Like, you couldn't just let Doc be an actual doctor. Like, why? Why did you have to do this? Like, you didn't need to. You didn't need to bastardize the dwarfs, okay? Like, I'm struggling for a better word than that, because the dwarfs are fine for what they are. You didn't need to just make them more silly, more goofy, and just undermine them. But Doc takes him in, and he works on him, and then he comes out and he starts mumbling about all this graphite and stone and chiseling, and then the dude comes out and he's like, oh, I thought I had killed him. At that point, I seriously just wanted to stand up and leave the theater. Like, you can't help yourself but make men, regardless of race or creed, into buffoons. That's all she did in this entire movie, is making fun of the dwarfs left, right, and center. Now, I should backpedal a little bit on that, because there was one scene in the early part of the day that I really did like, and that is when Snow White went out to comfort Dopey. Now, Dopey in this scene, right before, he got caught up as a casualty of some goofing off from the other dwarves, of them throwing some oatmeal all around and it ending up on Dopey's head, and the dwarves just jokingly make fun of Dopey for a little bit for having his breakfast on his head versus in his stomach. So, just some light ribbing. And I guess we're supposed to kind of see this as bullying from the dwarfs, but as a dude, it's just some light ribbing. It's just some mocking. It's just one of the guys' things. Like, Dopey then just stomps off very upset. Like, Dopey is a younger dwarf, so can be somewhat expected, but we're supposed to be feeling really, really, really bad for Dopey because he's been bullied by the other dwarfs. If that's bullying, I really want to see what you consider mean bullying, because that was just teasing. But Snow White goes out there and comforts him and teaches him how to whistle, and that seems to perk Dopey up quite a bit. So they go back in, and that's where the cleaning sequence starts. So sorry, I should have mentioned that way earlier. There's not much to this film at all, man. With that said, I need to go back to the point that we were before, and the dwarfs are bringing in some refreshments for everyone to drink to celebrate the saving of the band leader's life. Sorry, I'm forgetting his name right now. Let's see if I can go find what exactly his name was. Jonathan. There you go. That was the bandit leader's name. So instead of Prince Charming, we have bandit leader Jonathan. So just want to make sure I could get that name for us, just so we at least had that part for the film. Now, with Jonathan healed up, the celebration continues with some singing and dancing. Fine overall, but it just we have a little bit of romance happening between Snow White and Jonathan, which is fine. At least we're getting some romance in this film. That's probably actually another good part about this film, is that when Snow White and Jonathan are actually to romance each other and getting closer to a kiss, but then the camera pans to the side, showing that everyone's just staring and looking at them. So before they do, Snow White and Jonathan turn to the side and see just everyone watching. And before they can really go too much more in about that, they hear some soldiers' shouts, and Jonathan is willing to sacrifice him and his group to go out and lead the soldiers away to save Snow White and the dwarves. And the dwarves at this point are like, yeah, nope, Snow White, you're staying here. We're keeping you safe. And Jonathan promises to come back in a couple of days for Snow White after he leads the soldiers away. Snow White appreciates it, and she gives him her necklace that she got from her father, and it's more of a gift for him to come back and give it back to her. He nods, he smiles, and he takes off. Now, the subterfuge works for a little while. Unfortunately, he then stumbles into a trap by the soldiers and gets dragged off to the castle. Now, once he reaches the castle, the Evil Queen sees Snow White's necklace on him and throws him into the dungeon as well. And pretty much states to him like, yeah, by the next time you see Snow White, she'll be dead. And then she goes on concocting her evil plan, transforming herself into the hag and poison apple, which is all very well done. So I will give them top marks for that. Whereas Snow White, on the other hand, she waits till the next day before she decides to go out and searching for her father. Like, why? Why are you leaving? Why are you going out searching for him? Like, it literally makes no sense why you're just all of a sudden just leaving the cottage. You promised Jonathan, you promised the bandit guy that you would stay there until he came back within 2 days. As far as I can tell in movie time, it's only been just that one day and you're already leaving. Like, what's he supposed to do when he comes back to the dwarves and they tell him, oh yeah, Snow White, the girl that we promised to take care of and protect from the Evil Queen, yeah, she just all of a sudden decided to hightail it out of here. What the heck? Like, it would be one thing if the dwarves had mentioned, like, we understand it's been a couple days, we know that Jonathan isn't here, but we really think you should stay here, princess. We don't get any dialogue like that. She just decides to up and go and leave, and the dwarves are just completely okay with that. So Snow White goes out searching for Jonathan, or at least she's about to, and the dwarves head off to work, and that is when the evil hag, the evil queen, I should probably say, shows up and gives her the spiel about knowing her father, how he's such a great man, and she informs her that Jonathan is in the dungeons, and before Snow White can go off to go save him, she offers her the poison apple, which Snow White then takes. And this is something I don't understand at this point in the film. Why didn't she just put it in her pocket and then just leave? Like, why? Like, I don't understand why she had to take a bite to eat right then. It'd be one thing if she took the apple, sniffed it, and there's some aroma that went into her nostrils that makes the subject hungry, makes the person almost feel like they're famished, so she gets enticed to chew and eat it. Like what happened in the animated film that the evil queen entices Snow White to take a bite of the apple. She coaxes her into it, just like the juiciness, the tenderness, the crispness of the apple. Like very seductively gets her to eat the apple in the animated film. In this, we don't really have that. It's just that she reaches out and grabs it and then eats it. Now, the animals that have been following her around, as soon as the evil queen shows up, they've taken it off to go warn the dwarves. But by the time the dwarves get back, Snow White has eaten the apple and fallen asleep and has learned the truth from the evil queen that she was the one who murdered her father, that he's now long dead, and that now so will Snow White. And with that, the evil queen leaves. Snow White has been collapsed. Now, at this point, we go to see what good old Jonathan is doing. And Jonathan, at this point, he's in the dungeon with the huntsmen. And they are both, well, I shouldn't say both. Just Jonathan is trying to yank his chains off the wall, which isn't working because, well, obviously they've been bolting to the wall. Good luck with that. And the huntsman, for his part, he's like, dude, it's been a couple days. You've been at that constantly. But after he hears the spill from Jonathan about him working with Snow White and how he needs to get back to her, Huntsman's like, okay, fine, whatever. He gets up and starts yanking on the chain as well. And luckily enough, apparently they haven't replaced any of these chains for centuries. And no one is hearing this clanging going on because there is no jail guard. They're able to pry out his chains from the wall. Now, thankfully for them, there's also a skeleton that's down on the floor that just so happens to have a key to the metal links. So He goes over, unlocks his metal cuffs on his hands, brings it over to the huntsman, and he does the same. And with that, they split their separate ways, with Jonathan going back to the dwarves to check on Snow White, and the huntsman doing something. I think, you know what? I know what he's doing now. The huntsman went out to go talk to the townspeople to let them know what's going on, to raise the people to fight back against the queen. I think that's what he was doing. Or maybe he's just hightailing it out there. I'm trying so hard to remember exactly what happened in this film, guys. It's so forgettable. Like, there's just nothing really here worth praising about this film. I'm sorry to say that. That's just my opinion, so maybe I'm wrong on that, but it's just so forgettable. Now, Jonathan, for his part, he just hightails it off to Snow White, where he finds the seven dwarves are having the ceremony for her. Now, I'm actually a little bit disappointed at Disney for this, because in the films, Snow White has this beautiful casket of flowers all around her, and she has this glass dome above her. But in the film, she just has this like arch of flowers over her, and she's standing on a stone in front of a lake. It's pretty, but it's not as elegant or as nice as I personally would have preferred it to be, as it was in the animated film. Now, Jonathan, he gets over to her, and he actually kisses her on the lips. Now, I was expecting Disney to have him just kiss her hand or kiss her forehead, so the fact that he actually kissed her lips, I'm actually okay with. So, thank you for not being grossed out by men and thinking that it would be somehow sexist or rapey that he would kiss her on the lips. So, I appreciate you going to full length Disney on that. So he kisses her on the lips. She then all of a sudden wakes up. Everyone is happy. And she's like, okay, nope, time to stand up. Time to go to the queen and battle the queen. And so from there, we go straight into town. And she doesn't say anything. She just wears a red hood and just stands in an archway and looks at the townspeople. And the townspeople all look at Snow White. They set their work down and they silently congratulate. Sorry, wrong wording. They silently conglomerate all around her until she's leading this massive mob to the castle without saying a word, without preaching to the people, without saying, people of my kingdom, we have lived too long underneath this tyranny. We must come forward and live in more just, fair society. We must right these wrongs. You guys have been under this evil yoke for too long. Nothing like that. Nothing was said. It's just people come out and they follow. That's why I think the huntsman went out to the townspeople to have them come together to support Snow White, but I have no idea personally. So regardless, she leads this massive mob up to the front gates, and at this point, the soldiers are a little bit worried, but not really at all. Like, they have their halberds pointed at Snow White, but it doesn't seem like anyone's necessarily too concerned about. It doesn't look like anyone's too concerned about what is about to happen here, at least from what I can tell. Now, at this point, she's calling out to the guards to set down their weapons, calling out the evil queen that she knows what she did to her father, that she murdered him, and that she needs to step down and let fairness retake over the kingdom. Now, at this point, the queen then gives her speech on how, do you really want a flower that will degrade and blow away and be a pushover in the wind, or do you want a diamond that's hard and beautiful and shines that I will bring you to? And at this point, the evil queen does actually something a little bit interesting. She creates a diamond dagger, and instead of rushing forward and killing Snow White with it, she hands it over to Snow White, offers it to her, and gives herself wide open to Snow White to just go forward and stab her and kill the evil queen and put an end to this evil traitor. But instead, all Snow White does is she just holds the blade constipatedly. Like, she doesn't look angry. She looks frustrated, sad. Maybe she was anger. It's hard to tell with Rachel Zegler's facial emotions. Like, I'm just kind of confused exactly what she was trying to portray there. Now, at this point, the evil queen says, go ahead, kill me, finish it, show them what you're made out of. And at the end, Snow White isn't able to do it. She gives back the dagger to the evil queen, who, at this point, should stab Snow White. Like, here's the thing. The evil queen is a traitor. Okay? She killed your father. She's betrayed the kingdom. That's high treason. That's a sensible offense. What do you think we did with Arnold Cumberbatch over here in America when we found out he betrayed us to the British in 1776? I think it was Cumberbatch. Maybe I'm wrong. But I know his first name was Arnold. Sorry. History is there slipping my mind. My apologies on that. But we sentenced him to death for treason. The queen is 10 times worse. She killed the king. She almost killed your princess. I would say this is probably a justifiable execution if there ever was one. But instead, she just gives back the dagger. And instead of the queen, at this point, taking the opportunity to then killing her rival, which she should A, be doing this because Snow White poses a serious threat to her rule. B, Snow White has accused the queen of being a murderer already, and she hasn't denied it, so heck, might as well go full gambit and just kill her and be like, and now, with that done, I am the ruler of this kingdom. Resist me at your own peril. Like, you're already known as a hard ass. Go for it. Be the full-on dictator that you're supposed to be. But instead, she just turns around, walks past some of the guards, gives one of the other knights the blade, and tells him to go kill Snow White. Why? Why? Like, you were just literally standing there. You were the villain. You already attempted to kill her. You have no qualms about killing somebody. Like, why just give this blade to somebody else? Because as soon as she does give the blade to him, he starts walking to Snow White, and she's like, Kenny or William or something like that. Like, I remember who you are. You were a farmer. You had a family. And she goes all about that. Do you remember any of that? He's like, I remember. I don't want to do this anymore. And then he goes to the next guard, and he says, I remember as being a baker and all that. So she literally defeats the entire guard of the evil queen with, do you remember? I remember. From South Park. Like, what the heck, guys? And the guards then just walk back to the evil queen, gives her the diamond dagger back, and at this point the evil queen's like, fine, whatever. She takes the blade and she chucks it at Snow White, but thankfully it's deflected from a crossbow bolt from one of the bandits. I forget his name. What was the name on here? Kuai Gi. Yeah, he's the one who's supposed to be a master of the crossbow. So he takes aim, shoots it, and is able to deflect the dagger. And they are all cheering, yeah! Which I'm like, why are you cheering? That was one crossbow bolt, and the queen, she knows magic. So why not just summon another dagger and throw it at Snow White and kill her that way? Like, what's there to celebrate? Instead of doing the sensible thing of killing Snow White right there, the evil queen turns around and runs back into the keep, closely followed behind by Snow White. The queen then runs into her chamber that has the mirror. She takes her scepter and smashes it into the mirror and screams that she's supposed to be the fairest of the all. And as she does so, the magic of the mirror shoots outward, covers the whole room in flowing glass just as Snow White comes in. And then, sorry, dramatic pause with a burp. And then she's about to go walking towards Snow White when the magic of the mirror envelops her, turning to like this obsidian creature and sucking her back into the mirror and repairing itself. Except for there's no face in the mirror at this point. It's just a normal mirror. What the bleep? Like, okay, here's the thing. If you want this scene, I'd be okay with it if you had shown us before that the mirror could do this. Like, take the huntsman, for example. You have that whole musical, you drag the huntsman in front of the mirror, and you tell him, this is what happens to those who disobey me. And she breaks the mirror, and out comes the magic, envelops the huntsman, sucks him in, and kills him. Or maybe it's just a prison, but at least you can show us that this would happen if you break the mirror. Because as far as I know, there's just a magic mirror with a face to tell you that you are the most beautiful in the land. But at this point, Snow White then just leaves the mirror be. She goes back into the main area that has now all the bandits, and she's now crowned queen. And at this point, we learn that Dopey can speak. Why? Why did you feel the need to ruin Dobby's character? That was Dobby's niche. Unlike all the other dwarfs who could speak and talk, it's just that Dobby never could. He's never tried, and I was fine with that. It's just something that's in his characteristics, just not to talk. But Dobby is revealed to now be our narrator, who, dear God, like this man, he's been narrating the entire film. Like, okay, I get that Snow White had a narrator at the beginning of the film, which, fine. You can have that in this as well. Do it the same way. Just have him at the beginning. Except for he goes through all throughout the film. Like, he's not constantly there, but he pops up every now and then. And just like, why? Why do we need him coming up at these occasional spots? Like, just have him at the beginning. We don't need him throughout the film. But they do. And it's then revealed that this whole thing was just a story that Dobby has been revealing to everyone as they're all dancing around in white. Like, is this your wedding day? Why were you dancing in white? Is it for renewal? That's never explained to us. It's just that all of a sudden we're all dressed in white, we're all dancing, and then the film cuts to credits. So, yeah, I have a very low opinion of this film overall. Let's just go ahead and bring up Rotten Tomatoes. I'm curious to see how this film is doing on the tomato scale. Let's see here. My apologies here. Rotten Tomato Meter. Snow White. Bingo. Now, before we do that, let me make some adjustments on my end for the stream here. Let's see here. Yes. Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So, let's go ahead and bring this up. Disney Snow White. And we are currently standing at a 46% rating. I'm expecting that to just plummet, especially with this score. Yeah, it's not going to be good. Let's just go down and read some of the critics' reviews. It's been a while since I've been on the site, so I don't really remember everything that there is to it. So my apologies for that. Let's go take a look here. Yeah. So the visuals are duly spectacle, but this reimagined Snow White is missing one vital element: magic. That I agree 100% with. Now, there was magic, we can say, but saying that you have spells is enough magic for a film that's supposed to be based on a fairy tale that is full of magic, that when you watch the animation, it's just filled to the brim. This is a very sad excuse. The tank is running on empty almost at this point. So I agree completely with Kansas City, Russ Simmons. Glass, how did it get the tomato? Does the tomato mean it's bad? I think tomato means it's good. Let's see, 3 out of 5 definitely doesn't deserve that. It deserves maybe a 0.5 at best, in my opinion. Gloss prevails over heart in nearly every scene, and plot beats feel contrived. Yes, very much so. It's too cheesy, too over the top, and too visually flat, while brimming over with hyperactive theater kid energy that's better suited for Disney Princess cruise ship show. Yes! Yeah, no, absolutely. She nails it 100%. Like, so for everything that I could have said, she just said it beautifully well. Like, there's nothing better than what she has just come on and said. Like, this film, I felt all the way through, like, the theater kids have taken over. What is going on here? Yeah. No, it's absolutely spot on. 2.5. Yep. Okay, good score there. Approach Snow White with the kindness it deserves. It deserves criticism for what clearly doesn't work and should be abandoned by the industry, but its merits are many. Like, you just barely followed the storyline. You just barely had the dwarves in it. You just barely showed anything decent at all. A 6.5 is way too high. Of all the Disney princesses to revisit, Snow White was the biggest gamble, and unfortunately it doesn't really pay off. How do you give it a good review? I want to know that. This new take may try to be more adult, but ends up being clunky, often strident, and uncomfortable blend of modernity and old-timely storytelling. See, I don't have the issue with old-timely storytelling. That's where I disagree with him yet. I would actually appreciate if this was more in line with that old fantasy cartoon, whereas more old storytelling. It's that it just doesn't work. It's just, as he says, clunky. Sweet and delightful with great production design, but lacks the magic and charm of the beloved original. Gal Gadot gives a superb performance that's similar to her cringe-inducing performance in Death on the Nile. I haven't seen Death on the Nile, but dear God, Gal Gadot, please learn some acting lessons. You're fine as Wonder Woman, but dear God, please. As far as live action remakes go, have courage, be kind, and fight fascism is a fitting message for the moment, even if it comes wrapped in a pretty garbage package. That's giving it high praise, even though it's garbage praise. B minus definitely deserves more like a D minus. That messaging could have worked in another film. Let's just be honest here. I don't think the fairness storyline is necessarily bad to have in a story. You could have a story that's not Snow White, that's a political fantasy thriller, that I think that could have done well. But this just wasn't the story, man. Has Snow White ever arrived with such baggage? Gadot is a lot of fun. Zegler is likable enough, and sings like an angel. Her voice isn't bad, okay? I actually could enjoy her in a musical that was well written, that had good music. It's almost an hour shorter than Wicked. It's too long, man. It was too long. It's infuriating enough that Webb and Wilson ride not simply roughshod, but seemingly blindfolded through a classic, but other innocent fantasy classics are caught up as a collateral damage. Yep. Let's see here. In its own way, one's just as groundbreaking. The rare Disney's princess movie where the princess gets graduate to queen. Dude, please stop sucking on Disney. Is kind of embarrassing. Neither good enough to admire nor bad enough to joyfully skewer, its mediocrity is among its biggest bummers. 100% agree with you there, my friend. Just a movie I'm not going to remember. Yep. Yeah, we can keep on going for on and on and on. Ooh, Alan Ning from Film Threat. Every modification fails to improve the tale, and the whimsy and wonder of fairy tales are missing. It does not honor the original, but shuns it instead. 3 out of 10. That's perfect. I think we'll leave it on that note. I think Alan Ning spoke perfectly to what this film is lacking. It's lacking all and any magic, in my personal opinion. And yeah, that's really honestly where we're going to leave it. I see that we have a little bit of time left, about 58 minutes and somewhat change before we hit the hour. So we'll go for a little bit longer. What would I have done? I would have stuck more closely to the original film. I've done a better portrayal of what Snow White is. I think you could add some more nuance into the Princess Charming character, but don't disown the male character. Like, why did you have to degrade him? Why did you have to degrade him from Prince Charming to a bandit? Like, you could have done a lot better with that storyline. Cinderella did a fantastic job 10 years ago. Heck, no, it's longer than that. Almost 16, 17 years ago with the Cinderella remake with that prince and her storyline. You could have done such a better job with that, showing a better true love going on there. You could have had the prince having an epic fight with the evil king, vanquishing her in order to save Snow White. Because in the Snow White film, back in the old days, really, it was kind of contrived how the evil queen died. The prince was chasing after her. The evil queen climbed up some rocks. There was during a rainstorm. She then accidentally fell to her death, which was fine, but you could have done a bit more. You could have showed the prince had a magical sword that was fighting against the magic of the evil queen, and then saved Snow White it could have just done a lot better. You could have actually shown the dwarves the proper respect and let Doc be a Doc. You could have done a proper job. I just didn't have anything there that was actually worth mentioning or remembering, in my humble opinion. But I would love to hear, what are your guys' thoughts of this film? Have I gone overboard with it? Have I gone maybe a little too verbose with it? I would love to hear you guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a dislike if you did not. Don't forget to subscribe. And I think we'll try to do these live streams once a week moving forward. But that's all we got for now. Y'all take care now. Talk to you later. Bye.